Hello everyone. In this video, we're going to be talking about the new data management system and how you can read your data files to find the data you're looking for. To start off, I'm going to talk about how the data is organized, and then we're going to go into how to read it. So every data file is a recording structured of many frames that are recorded. Every file separates the frames by a new line, so each line will be a frame, and that is listed in the order that the frames are recorded. Every line is then split into the recordables for that frame, and then subsequently each recordable is split into the data that applies to that recordable. You can see here we have an example of the data line. So this is for a single frame. We have this first recordable, and every recordable is separated by this double straight line. So for the first recordable, we'll have the GUID, the events that occurred to this recordable on this frame, and the hierarchy data, which will include if this recordable changed its parent or path, the prefab name, meaning whatever prefab this recordable was created from, and finally any data that was recorded for that frame. As you might know, every recordable has its own global unique identifier, which allows us to go through and figure out exactly which recordable this data applies to. Events are now recorded, including the creation of the object, the deletion, anytime it is disabled or enabled. This will allow you to keep track of when the object enters the scene, leaves the scene, or is no longer being recorded because it is disabled. We also have the hierarchy data, which allows us to keep track of the parent of the object and subsequently update its position in the hierarchy when needed. The prefab allows us to instantiate the object whenever we need to fulfill a creation event. And finally, the data is whatever needs to be applied to that recordable during that frame. So here we have an example line. You'll see the first thing is this long string, which is the GUID. And then we have the list of events that happened during this frame. So we can see here that the hierarchy event happened, meaning that this recordable changed parent. Following that, we can see in the hierarchy data section that there is no parent because it is null. Next, we see the prefab name section, which is also empty because this was not created on this frame, so therefore we do not need a reference to the prefab. And finally, we have the data section outlined here, which we can interpret as this first section being the position that was recorded, this next section being the quaternion for the rotation, and finally a user recorded string. So let's now look at an example file. And at first, this can be very daunting to look at due to the sheer amount of information thrown at you. However, it is easy to find certain events you're looking for simply by doing Control F and searching. So if we search for creation, we can go through and find all the times that things were created. So for example, here we have an object that was created on this frame, was updated to a new position in the hierarchy under the projectile holder. It was created from a cannonball prefab and recorded this position and rotation. We can also do the same for any time it was deleted. So here we have an example of a deletion event. You'll notice that it only has the GUID and the deletion event because any recordable that is deleted on a frame doesn't need to be updated. You'll also notice that you can then search any GUID that you desire and keep track of its entire lifetime. So here we can see this whole lifetime, and eventually it ends on this frame. Where it is then deleted. So with this, you're able to find certain objects and keep track of its position in the data. Say, for example, you're experiencing an issue with this object on frame 281. You can go to line 281 of the data file and see exactly what's happening. So in this case, there's nothing happening because this is theoretical. But theoretically, we can go in and see that maybe the position data is actually way off at thousands of positions away when it's not supposed to be, which may indicate that during the scene the object teleported somewhere else only for one frame, something that you could otherwise not see with the naked eye. And if there's any object that you find in here that you can't quite remember or understand where it is in the scene or which object it is, you can simply take this GUID, go to GVL Recorder Real-Time Status Inspector, and we'll pop that over there. And you can use this Find Object by GUID function. So if you place the GUID in here and click Find, it will go to the object in the scene. In this case, the object isn't loaded in the scene, so there's no object to find currently. But if we go a little bit forward and then click Find, we'll get the exact cannonball, which is this one. It's selected for us. And then we can do whatever information searching we need to do on it within the scene. I hope that this has been helpful, and I hope you're easily able to search through the data files now.